Hello and welcome to I Was Just Thinking. My name is Heather Deveaux, and I was just thinking about bartering. Not the kind of bartering that we do in business where you may offer me a 3-month marketing package in exchange for a course creation package. Firstly, because those two things are not even comparable in value, not even close, let me tell you. And secondly, because I'm talking about the kind of bartering that we do with ourselves. When we are trying to make a decision, sometimes we will trick ourselves into thinking it is better to wait to make that decision. It is better to wait until such time as. Feel free to fill in the blank there, but here are some things we might tell ourselves. It is better to wait to make a decision because I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough help. I don't have enough agency. I don't have enough autonomy. I don't have enough support. I don't have enough dishes in my kitchen. I don't have enough sleep. I don't have enough food. I don't have enough whatever, okay? When you are putting off making a decision, you may find yourself bartering with yourself, essentially biding your time, putting off making that decision because you think that delaying the decision means you'll get to make a better decision when you're in a better position. So, for example, if you say to yourself, you want to book a trip to Paris and funds are a little tight, you may say to yourself, if I work extra shifts for the next 6 months, then I will have the money to book the trip. Versus, and this is the way I operate and why I'm offering it to you, I tend to book the trip and then I'm happy to work the 6 months of shifts. But I don't like the idea of bartering with myself, putting myself behind the line so that I can make a decision from a place of having earned the right to make that decision later when I feel better about myself. And that might not be the kind of advice you're used to getting. A lot of people will say, yeah, you should save the money before you book a trip to Paris. And I have the kind of brain that requires the trip to be booked, at least in part, the parts I can afford to pay for right now, so that I will work towards the rest of it. So I don't barter with myself in the way that leaves me wanting. I barter with myself in a way that gets me a result and gets me to the result I want faster and gets me up to do the thing I need to do so that I have, for example, the money to pay for a trip to Paris. Now, I've been to Paris. I won't go again. That's all I'm going to say about that. But what you get when you start putting yourself behind the line, and what I mean by that is you're not starting out from a place of power. You're starting out from a place of you need to bargain with yourself. You need to sell yourself short. You feel like you need to earn these things. When we put ourselves in the position to start from there, it can delay the things we want inevitably. And often the reason that we're bartering with ourselves, so I will work 6 months of extra shifts at my job, then I will book the trip. It will feel so good to book the trip after I have worked the 6 months of these shifts, these extra shifts for 6 months. We tell ourselves these things, we barter with ourselves, but really what we're doing is we're undermining our ability to create the thing that we want by having to prove to ourselves that we, one, can earn it, and two, deserve it. And I think more than anything, what we're telling ourselves is we don't deserve to have the things that we want because there are other things we need to do. And this is another form of bartering that we sort of trick ourselves into believing. And I want to bring this to the forefront and talk about this today because I think that if we flip the script on this, which is something I love to do. Don't tell me no, because I'm going to tell you yes. Don't tell me yes, because I'm definitely going to tell you no. I challenge these norms and I challenge these ways of thinking because I have seen in my own life that when, for example, somebody tells me no and I go, well, fuck, I'm going to do it anyway, that usually works out in my favor because I have not put myself in the starting position of being behind the line, being without, being under the gun, so to speak, feeling like I don't have what it takes. Whereas if I start from a position of I've got everything I need right now, even if I don't, and mostly I don't usually have everything I need, I don't have the money to book a trip to Paris, but I'm gonna book the trip to Paris. And I have a great story about this that I'm going to tell you, literally about Paris. So when you're starting behind the line, what you're doing is you're undermining and you're dismissing your ability to create the thing that you want. You need to create space. You have a desire to create space between you and the thing that you want because you feel like you need to be worthy of that thing. And I know because I used to do that too. I used to think like, oh, I have to wait until, and until, again, fill in the blank, until such time as I feel worthy or that I have earned this thing. Sometimes that never comes because something always gets in the way. Back in 2013, which seems like a lifetime ago now, and it was a lifetime ago. I was living a very different life. I had very different thought processes back then. But I was working on getting to a place where I could travel more. And travel doesn't have to be a priority for you. Even as you listen to this, I'm going to use the example of travel, but you could fill in the blank with anything. When I come home from the city in 2013, my sister and I got together and said, let's book a trip for our mom to go to Greece. And we had this plan that we were going to surprise her for Christmas with a plane ticket, basically just a plane ticket to Greece, which is no small. I'm not minimizing that getting a plane ticket to Greece for Christmas is an amazing gift. But really what we did was we handed her a plane ticket and then we were like, oh, but you're going to help split the cost of the hotels, right? I mean, we were like young and broke, okay? Our thought process was not that we were going to get our mom to split the cost of the hotels, but that if we bought the plane ticket, if my sister and I saved the money and bought the plane ticket to take our mother to Greece, then we could figure out the rest later, rather than wait until we had all the money to book the trip. What we did is we looked at the trip we wanted to book and we said, okay, I think at the time it was $3,000 for the three of us to go, so $1,000 each. So a basic math, my sister and I needed $1,500 each to buy these three tickets, economy tickets for my mom and the two of us to give to her as a Christmas present. And so we had started that conversation in like October that year of 2013. When we sat down to book it, about a month later, the tickets were gone. And they weren't just gone. There was, tickets to buy to Greece, no problem to get there, but they had tripled in price. So what happened was our tickets that originally cost $3,000, which were affordable to us at the time, had tripled and were now $9,000. So it was $3,000 a ticket because we waited too long to book those tickets. Now, if we had booked them the month earlier, if we hadn't bartered with ourselves about waiting to spend the money, because we had the money. This is the thing, it wasn't like we were waiting to save the money. We were just thinking, okay, we'll do this next month. We had a plan, and you need to know this about me, and especially in the presence of my sister, we do this thing where we're like, you want to go to Jamaica? Let's go to Jamaica. And then we just start looking for tickets to Jamaica. So we did this, and we were just, kind of shooting the shit one day, talking about what are we going to do for mom for Christmas. We come up with this idea, and rather than book the tickets, we talked ourselves out of it, and we talked ourselves into waiting. So we bartered with our time, never imagining that these tickets were going to triple in price. And when we went to go book the tickets a month later, the tickets were so expensive that we just had to say, like, we can no longer afford this. We could still buy the ticket. We could not eat or drink or buy anything when we were there. And we certainly would be sleeping on the streets because there was no way we would have any more money to get a hotel, let alone a cheap fucking hostel. So we had to make the decision very quickly that we were going to get a ticket to somewhere else, because Something really funny happens when your options seem to have just kind of gone up in smoke. And I remember having this conversation with my sister that, oh my God, what are we going to do now? Like, there isn't a whole world out there. Like, we don't have cash in our bank accounts to buy these tickets. We could go anywhere. And it was the funniest fucking conversation because we were both like, well, where else is there? I mean, listen, I have traveled a lot, but not enough to be like, I don't know where I want to go. I mean, come on, right? So we sat there for a minute, kind of racking our brains and feeling really silly about the fact that we hadn't booked these tickets. And we just started talking about different places. And so we ended up in Europe. My sister has spent a lot of time there. And so she had said, why don't we just go to Europe? And again, minimizing the like, why don't we just go to Europe? And instead of being like, what will be amazing, let's go to Europe. She meant Eastern Europe, like France and Italy, and we went to Switzerland. And anyway, I'll get into all that. But so we said, okay, fine, fuck it. So we pulled up the booking service wherever we booked it, I can't remember, and we booked the tickets. We got three tickets to Paris, flown out of our home airport, which was lucky at the time you could still do that. Now you certainly can't fly anywhere out of our home airport except to the next regional airport. And so we had booked these tickets out of our home airport, and we had planned to give her the tickets for Christmas. We were going to fly in May. So it wasn't even like this was going to happen right away. We had lots of time to save the rest of the money, to book the hotels, to book the car services, to book the trains, whatever we needed to book. The way that we did this was once we realized our mistake of we should have booked these tickets to Greece a month earlier, we decided we are not going to wait to start booking some of these things. Let's get ahead of this and let's start booking this a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit here and a little bit there. So as we both had the money, we would pool our money and we would book these things. And so that was what we did. And so we decided then and there that we were not going to chance not getting the things that we wanted, specifically places to stay, because our mom she's a five-star hotel kind of lady, and you don't want to travel with her otherwise. It makes for a pretty miserable trip when Georgina's not super happy. So we had given her this ticket, and she was so excited. And we were very excited because that was not the trip we thought we were going to take, but I do love that we ended up taking that trip. And all along the way, we get a couple of $1,000 together, we book some hotels. And we did this right up until it was time to go. So much so that, we booked a car service to pick us up at the airport. We had booked a train to take us through the mountains. Like we had done all those things little by little. Had we waited to book that plane ticket, and this is how I always do it, book the plane ticket first, get the big expense out of the way. Depending on where and how you fly, like who you fly with, the plane ticket might end up being the cheapest part of your trip. Your hotels will likely end up costing you the most money, but because at the time, plane tickets were expensive to Europe, we wanted to do that first, and we wanted our mom to know that like we had set this in motion, and then we would deal with the rest as we go. And I have done that all trips I have taken as an adult. I have booked my plane ticket because as soon as I know I'm going, there is no chance I'm not going. And it will not be because I don't have the money. Even if I don't have the money right now, I will get the money because I booked the damn plane ticket. And in doing that, in setting myself up for this is how I'm going to get the thing I want, and then putting those pieces in motion. So I only have $300. Okay, great. I'm going to book one hotel. I only have $500. Great. I'm going to book 2 nights in a cheaper hotel. And the next time I get $500, I'm going to book 2 more nights in a different hotel. And so I do it little by little by little. And I've been doing that whether I have money or not for years. And the reason I do that is because I spent many years of my early adult life not traveling after spending my entire childhood traveling with my mom and with my sister. And we had an aunt that we used to travel with all the time. And as I got older and effectively broker as an adult, in your early 20s, like, I don't got nothing, but I'm so happy some fucking reason. when you're younger, travel might not be the thing you're spending your money on, but my God, it was the thing I wanted to spend my money on. But I hadn't done the mindset work around stopping the process of bartering with myself. And I remember saying to myself many times in those early years when I was 22, 23, 24, when I had my son, when I was 26, and I was super fucking broke when I had a baby. And I'm about to be super fucking broke again because that baby's going off to university next year. And oh my God, it does not cost what it cost when I went to school, but whatever. That's a problem for future Heather. So I look at my past of how I used to just more than anything want to travel. But I barter with myself. I said, when the Sears bill is paid, when the oil bill is paid, when I have my car paid off, when we get a little more ahead on the mortgage, when I don't have a surprise water tank blow up in my basement. And when you're young, I hate the fact that people say, well, that's just, when you're young, that's just how it is. Yes, and I know now that had I believed something different, it didn't have to be that way. And I can't go back and change it, and I can't change the way that I thought back then, but I can certainly use it as an example and a reminder to myself to not barter away the things I want in favor of the things that I need to be doing. I can do both. So this isn't an either or situation. I want to remove the barter where I get stuck behind the line and I'm stuck waiting. And I want to find a way to do both things. I want to find a way to pay both my bills and buy plane tickets. And so I spent years working on this mindset around, oh, I shouldn't do this, or oh, I can't do this. And I have gotten so good at this, and I've wrapped my brain around my finger so well around spending money on travel and experiences. And you could, again, it could be anything. I'm saying traveling. Look, I spend so much money on books. The bookstore should give me a cut, okay? If the thing you want to spend money on is being weighed down by the guilt or the feeling of I should do something else, I want you to consider that maybe you're bartering with yourself, you're bartering with your own happiness. Because yeah, you could have it later, but yes, you could have versions of it now. And it might not be the big shiny gold version, but there are versions of it now, and there are steps you can take to get that thing all along the way so that you're at least working toward the thing that you want. And sometimes it's more fun to plan a trip than take a trip, if we're being literal. And if we're being figurative, sometimes it's more fun to plan the trip than take the trip too. Because what happens is that we get excited about the possibility. We enjoy, and I say we, I assume you're like me because you're here listening to this. But if you are like me, you enjoy the planning process. You enjoy doing the research. You enjoy looking for hotels to stay in. You enjoy moving around. You enjoy doing those things. And then when you're there, it's a very different experience, right? When you're actually on the trip, when you're actually doing the thing, when you're actually driving the car, when you're actually reading the book, there's two things happening here. One is you are planning and prepping and saving and buying and whatever. And the other is I'm doing the thing. And those two things have very different energies. And sometimes I think that if we don't give enough attention to the thing that we have wanted all along, so the trip, for example, if we don't give enough attention to the thing that we wanted while we're getting it and doing it, then we're going to miss the point of having done the work in the first place. So let me explain to you. So my sister and I went through this whole rigmarole to get this trip booked for our mom. We booked the trip. We gave her the trip for Christmas. She was so excited. We started booking the hotels and the trains and the cabs and the car services and all this kind of stuff. And then we get to Paris. And just me is like, what? It's very dirty, just to start. And yeah, they really just don't like English people. Cool, 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 cool. I don't speak a lick of French, but I was just telling my son this last night. We were talking about Paris, which is why I'm using it as the example today, because I was able to tell him I had been there. And he said, how did you get around? And I said, I wrote everything on a piece of paper to give to the cabbie. So I didn't have to talk to them because I knew they were going to laugh at me or make fun of me in some way. And so my mom, my sister, and I, also who don't speak any French, wrote down addresses for the car services to be like, take us here. And we didn't even have to say anything. We just hand them the address and they would take us to the places. And so I was telling my son about this. But one of the things that I noticed about that trip was that I really was not taking advantage of the places that I was. I was thinking about the next thing. And so this is another way that we barter with ourselves, is that we trick ourselves into thinking, I'm here now, but I still want to be somewhere else. And so I'm standing like literally below the Eiffel Tower and I'm looking up at the undercarriage of the Eiffel Tower and like it's fucking beautiful. And then I look around and there are soldiers or cops or whatever they are, the French army, I don't know. And they have like C7 rifles, like literal rifles, not like handguns or sidearms. They have literal rifles and there's like just lines of them everywhere. And then I look around and I'm like, there was a lot of security in this city. And I suddenly feel like I don't want to be here anymore and we should go. And I don't like this experience. And so I take myself out of the experience thinking like, I don't want to be here. Instead of asking questions like, why do they have rifles? What is going on? Is there anything going on? No. Anyway, it turned out there was nothing going on. There is just so much tourism at the Eiffel Tower, or there was at the time anyway. I don't know if it's still like that. There was so much tourism that they literally needed crowd control. Now, did they need rifles? I don't know. I'm not going to get into a conversation about gun control, but they felt they did need those rifles. And all I thought was, this isn't safe. We shouldn't be here. I don't want to be here. Instead of just being like, I can't believe I'm standing under the fucking Eiffel Tower. And so I was bartering with myself. Like, this isn't cool. I want to be somewhere else. I want to feel different. I want to experience different. And so we got out of there and we went and we took this river boat ride. And that was really cool. And anyway, I'm not going to get into all the shit that we did because we did 18 days of just pure nonsense in Europe. We drove 5 different countries, 18 days. And at the end of it, my mother like fell out of the car. This is a true story. She fell out of the car and like took a knee. It was like, I can't drive around Europe anymore. And my sister did all the driving. She did an amazing job. But my mom like fell out of the car. I was like, I can't do it anymore. Take me to the airport. I just want to get the fuck out of here. And so, we had been like boots on the ground effectively for 17 or 18 days, driving around, road tripping through Europe. Just an incredible experience. But I got home from that trip and the first thing I told everybody was like, I won't go back. That wasn't my cup of tea. That wasn't my crumpet, whatever you want to say. That was just not the kind of place that I wanted to visit. And I realize now, looking back, that the reason that I felt like that was because I was having a trip with someone else. I was having a vacation that someone else wanted. I was following and bartering the whole time, which, bartering's a fancy word for compromise, in case you haven't caught on to that yet. And so if you're like, this isn't really bartering, it's compromise. We're compromising. You are getting something and I'm getting something, but we're both not getting exactly what we want. That's bartering. It's not a win-win. And if anybody sells you on the fact that bartering is a win-win, they are fucking lying to you. That's not, somebody is always behind the line, as with compromise. And so that was in 2013 when I started really thinking about, I love my family. They're great to travel with, but I don't know that I want to be traveling with people in that way again. And so I had to do some mental mindset work around traveling with people, which kind of sounds crazy, but I did. Because I actually was at the time traveling with my family a lot. We come home from that trip in May. That November, we all went to Disney World. And when I say all, I mean my entire family, my extended family, my sister, we all went. There was like 7 or 8 of us. We all go to Disney World. And what happens when you go on a trip with people is that everybody's resources get drained from trying to compromise with everybody else. Everybody gets tired and cranky. I mean, my family gets tired and cranky. Yours probably does too. There's always someone who's not getting to do what they want, and they're having to say, okay, well, we'll do this today, and then we'll do this other thing tomorrow. And sometimes tomorrow not literally doesn't come, but in that you don't get to do the thing you wanted to do because someone else spoke up today about what they want to do tomorrow, and that wins out, because it's majority wins. And my family traveled in such a way that we didn't break apart. So we didn't say like three of you go here and four of you go here. We traveled together as a unit because my parents were getting older and they didn't want to be by themselves. And so it made no sense to take them on a vacation and then send them off to do something on their own. They wanted to be traveling with us. And so I would go and I would take these vacations with my parents, which I'm so grateful for the experience. Obviously, it was so great to be able to be home, to live at home, and to have these experiences, and to be able to afford to do this for my parents and with my parents. And so we had done that trip, and then we had done another trip that summer. And so we had kind of gotten into this routine of we were all traveling together as much as possible, as much as our schedules allowed. And I was always thinking, yeah, like I'd love to come back, but like I'd love to come back by myself. I'd love to do this by myself because it's not because I'm an asshole. It's because I like to do things a certain way. It's not because I'm a control freak. I know the things I'm a control freak about. It's because I want to have the kind of experience that is going to be meaningful for me. I like to see other people having fun. I have a son who at the time was very young. I loved to see him having a good time, but I was never getting to do the things I really wanted to do because when you're in a place like Disney World, I'm not complaining, but when you're in a place like that, everyone's got something on their list that they have to do, that they want to do. And so your stuff, and I'm always kind of at the head of the pack, right? Because I plan everything for people and I book everything and I get everybody the car services and I'm the one doing all those things. That's my role in this family. Because I'm that person, I'm just always thinking about what do other people want and making sure that they're having a good time. This is a very common thing for women, especially moms, especially people pleasers. Hi, me, I'm a people pleaser. You might not know it. I've just told you. And so as I've gotten older, one of the things I've realized is that, like, yeah, there is a lot of vacations I've taken with my family that I would do again, but I would want to do them by myself because I don't want to have to compromise on the experience. And that is not a negative commentary. That is just fact. That is fact for me. That is not fact in the world of truth. It is not, universal, but it is a fact for me. It is a truth about me that I like traveling alone. I also like traveling with people, but when I am traveling with people, I am constantly thinking, I would like to do this, and I would also like to do this by myself someday. So I have this kind of mental running list of things I'd like to do, but I have tried as I've gotten older to not pull myself out of the moment in wishing I was in a different place or in wishing I was with different people or in wishing I was even alone so that I'm not behind the line. I'm not sort of discounting myself while I'm in the experience. I'm having the experience, very present in the experience. And that came from recognizing that I did that years ago when I was younger. Just shitting away opportunities because I was just like, this is fucking terrible. I don't want to do this. Just being a brat. And then as I've gotten older, realizing that, like, oh, that felt like that because there was my brain and my body wanted to experience this in a different way. And so I don't fight with that anymore. I'm very honest about that and I'm very open about that. And I don't make apology for that because that is how I want to live my life. But what it has helped me do is recognize when I am bartering with myself, when I am compromising with myself so that other people are getting what they want. And this is not a pissing contest. I want to be very clear about this. What it is information to help us live our best lives. So do I want to go and take this trip to Paris with my mom and my sister? Yes, I do want to do that. Would I go back by myself? Yeah, I probably would. Not to Paris and not to Italy either. I probably would. I would go back to Belgium. I would go back to Switzerland. I would go back to Luxembourg. I don't think I could do Italy again. I don't think I could do Paris again. Not my jam. That's okay. But when I think about those things, I think like, yeah, when you're in a car with three people and you're just fucking making mad miles across 5 countries in 17 days, and you're just like looking for the next place to grab a meal, and you're looking for the next train station, and you're looking for the parkade to put the car in, like that's one way to travel. And then there is another way to travel where I'm just kind of blowing around doing whatever I want. And if I don't want to get up because I don't want to go see the city today, then I'm not going to get up and I'm not going to go see the city today. And so that comes from knowing yourself and knowing what you like and what you don't like, and not being afraid to say that, because then you end up in compromise. Then you end up bartering your time and experience in favor of someone else's. And effectively, that is a 10-minute rant about how I ended up solo traveling and why I have spent so much time solo traveling, because I don't want to compromise. And so now when I travel with somebody, whether that's friends or a partner or my family, when I'm traveling with somebody, I am preparing mentally for a very specific experience. I'm not anticipating anything. I'm not, looking for a fight. I'm not looking for discomfort, like none of that. I just have to, to me, it feels like I have to turn on a different set of settings, because now we're in a shared experience. And a shared experience is wonderful and different, especially if you know that it's going to require compromise. And we don't often think of these things as top of mind. We don't go into these situations with, oh yeah, I'm going to have to compromise. I don't go into the situation thinking that. But there is a setting in my brain that's like, oh, okay, well, we're just going to be agreeable. We're not going to fight over where to have dinner. I'm not going to give a shit about where we're driving to or what, events we're going to go to, because there are more people involved. Whereas if I'm by myself, I do things like I will eat at the same restaurant and order the same thing 3 nights in a row. But when there are other people around, it seems to me like there seems to be more variety. There's a pressure, I find, to get more out of the experience. And that's just not how I travel. When I'm alone, again, fill this in with anything you want. I'm just using travel as the example. I want you to think about something in your life where you are bartering or you are compromising. And I want you to think about what it looks like with other people and then when you're by yourself. And I'm not encouraging you to do everything by yourself. I'm just saying there is a setting inside you that when you are by yourself, you do things a certain way or a different way than you would do them with other people. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think that is when we become aware of our needs and our wants and our desires. Because when you're in a group of people and everyone is rushing to get on a ride together, but only 2 people actually want to go on that ride, and everyone else feels like they have to go because they're on a family vacation and they don't want to ruin it for other people, well, that kind of ruins it for those people. It takes away from their experience. And you don't know that, you don't pay attention to that until you spend time thinking about what it is you actually want to be doing and how you actually want to be spending your time. And so we could talk about this in terms of careers. If you have spent a lot of time in a career and you feel like you wanted to do one thing, but you did another because it was there and it was available and it was good money and they have benefits, and nothing will suck you into a soul-sucking job faster than a good benefits package, especially if you're from where I'm from. And, when you think about those things, when you think about the bartering that goes on, not just the physical exchange of money for time and service, but the bartering that you're doing with exception to the time and the money, like your values, your morals, your aspirations, your dreams and goals that are getting either sidelined or, quieted, put aside in favor of somebody else's dreams and goals and aspirations. If you think of being in a board meeting or being in a meeting with coworkers, and there is an air of, there is a culture of candor. Well, I mean, that's great in theory, but in practice, that is a fucking disaster, because people don't actually say what they think at work. Everyone is filtering through the lens of, I don't want to get fired, so I'm only going to say half of what I really want to say. So we're not getting to the places that we want to get to when we are being influenced by other people, when we are in the presence of other people, because we are bartering and compromising all the time. Whether we know it and whether we like it or not, it is happening. We are being influenced by the presence and the needs, wants, and desires and aspirations of other people. Not a negative commentary. I don't say this to be like a bitch about it. I'm saying this to be like, you need to be aware of where you're compromising and where you're selling yourself short so that you can start reining that in. And I'm not saying like throw a match and burn the whole thing down. I'm saying be aware in the way that I was aware of making travel plans 12 years ago, that if I had done the thing I wanted to do, even in the smallest amount, which was book the ticket to Paris, or book the ticket to Greece rather, then I would have had the trip to Greece booked instead of standing under the Eiffel Tower wondering why there were so many machine guns. Great experience. Two very different, valid experiences, but I still haven't been to Greece. And I'm not complaining about that because I've been to lots of other places in the meantime. But I did learn from that experience that, we shouldn't have waited. We shouldn't have played it safe. We had the money to buy that ticket. So why didn't we buy the ticket? And we just thought, we'll just do it later. And in this instance, later just never came. And it's 12 years later, and I still haven't been to Greece. I can't even say I haven't been back to Greece. I haven't been to Greece. And like, I hear it, what a thing to complain about, but that's the example I'm giving you, is that you don't have to wait. You can have versions of something that you want right now, and it doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be exact, and it doesn't have to be alone. You can do these with other people, whatever that is. But pay attention to the fact that there are things within that goal, going to Greece, for example, there are things within that goal that you want for yourself. And so what I want for you to take away from this episode is to think about what it is that you want. When you feel like you are compromising, or you have to compromise, or you have compromised, you have bartered away some part of yourself, what would you want to do instead next time? Because you get to change it. This is not a, oh, fuck, I wish I had done something different kind of situation. This is a, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if I had done something different, would that have turned out differently for me? And I'll use travel as the example again. The first time I went out traveling by myself, I was like, what? Have you guys heard of solo travel? Like, it was like mind fucking boggling to me what a different experience I could have. Just kind of blown around doing my own thing. And there's lots of context there, and there's tons of backstory about like why that was important to me and when I discovered it, how it changed my life, but we'll save that for another episode. What I do want to say, though, is that you can take those small moments, which seem insignificant because all compromises is like death by 1,000 knife cuts, right? It's just like little things that pick at you and eat at you that you just compromise, you barter. And then one day you're like, I'm not doing this no more. This is just not working for me. And it will feel like suddenly it's not working for you, but the truth is it hasn't been working for you for a really long time. And so if you can sort of catch that or use previous experiences to think about when did that start to feel uncomfortable, or when did that not serve you, you can start making those adjustments right now. And they don't have to be huge, big adjustments. So for me, when I learned that my plane tickets could triple in price and I wasn't going to have access to the place that I wanted, that maybe the next time I would book the ticket when I come up with the idea, or when I decided I had enough money to book the ticket. And now even there's a couple of things like with WestJet where you can put $20 down and hold the fare for, I think, 72 hours. So you could hold the fare and sell a bunch of shit in your house and get enough money to buy the ticket. Like, there's do a whole series. In fact, I have done a whole series about how to travel, and it's called Go Anyway, the solo adventure series for women. It's an audio course. It's over on my website, heatherdeveaux.com/courses. You can check it out if you want. Don't check it out. I don't care. I did it. I wanted to create it. I thought it was a great idea because there are so many things that when we think about travel and we travel with other people, the way that we barter and we compromise can leak into other areas of our life. And I think it's a great example to study, to see the things that you want and desire in life and be able to apply that to other areas of your life. However, I digress. So I want you to take away from this episode that if you are feeling like there's something in your life that you want and you don't have, I want you to ask yourself where you're giving up the opportunity to get that thing. Where are you bartering? Probably with time or money. Maybe it's family, maybe it's responsibility, whatever. Ask yourself those questions. Ask yourself where you're bartering with yourself to prevent yourself from getting some version of that thing. And I want you to ask yourself, is there a way to start reining that in? I'll go back to the travel example. I didn't get my tickets to Greece because I waited too long. I had the money originally. I just thought we'll do it later. And so I was bartering with, like, I don't want to go through the hassle of trying to book a ticket right now. And it cost me like big time, like $3,000 big time. And then ended up in a totally different part of the country or a totally different part of the continent. Cool, great trip. Highly recommend. Not Paris, but so take this with you today. Think about compromise, think about bartering, think about those areas of your life where you wish you had more or different or better. You know, you're allowed to want better. You know, you don't have to just look at something and think it's great just because you have it. And I want you to think about how you can start reining that in, stop giving away parts of yourself so that other people have what they want, but you still don't have what you want, and start taking those baby steps towards the things that you want. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you soon.